See the unconventional way one group of people is trying to catch the attention of those living in violent neighborhoods in Columbia. Animal blessings. Find out why these pets were at a local church this weekend and how the church is giving back. Veteran adjustment.
I think the biggest issue that veterans have as a whole is feeling like they belong here.
As we get set to honor our veterans this week, several student veterans at USC discuss the tough transition back to campus life. All this and more coming up next on Carolina News.
Live from the capital city, Carolina News brings you your news first. With breaking news and in-depth reporting. Up-to-the-minute weather. And all your sports news and highlights. It's all here, now, on Carolina News.
Hello and welcome to Carolina News. I'm Nicole Ryder.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Anna Spots. A group of funeral home employees from across the state came together Sunday to help stop violence in Columbia areas. But the way they did it may surprise you. Jeremy Sullivan has the story.
Today, Levy's Funeral Home is the meeting spot for 10 different hearses and their drivers. While these vehicles are usually seen as a sign of mourning and loss, today they're being used for something a little different. These hearses are not here today to transport caskets, but rather to provide a jarring visual for residents in areas known for violence. They're about to move out of here and go through those areas to remind residents that no one they know should have to be inside of one of these because of a violent death. This motorcade is part of the Stop the Violence rally in Columbia. Event planner Anthony Hallman explains what he hopes to achieve through this demonstration.
We're hoping that it can be an eye-opener for someone to realize, hey, we need to stop the violence. You know, there's so many senseless deaths going on, senseless killings. The violence needs to come to an end.
And Father God, we thank you for this movement, Lord.
After a prayer, the drivers start to move out. Then their police escorts lead them down Taylor Street. Once they finish their drive, they end at Second Nazareth Baptist Church. Here, a crowd gathers and listens to testimonials from people who have lost family members to violent deaths.
My brother was gunned down in West Columbia as an act of gun violence with gang members. I think violence is a symptom of neglect, and it's also a symptom of poverty, and it's also a symptom of, most of all, of lack of love.
And while the lost were remembered, the bigger focus was preventing this in the future. A prayer was spoken over all young men that they would grow up without knowing violence. Anthony says that's what he wants this rally to be about.
Just say that again.
Our key aim is to save souls.
And it seems like that's what everyone else wants too. Jeremy Sullivan, Carolina News.
The hearse motorcade will meet up again at different locations across the state to continue their efforts to stop violence. The next gathering will take place in Anderson.
Columbia police officer Stacy Case was killed in a car crash late Saturday night. Officer Case was responding to a report of shots fired at Gervais and Lincoln Streets when she collided with a USC PD vehicle. The incident was later determined to be a suicide. Chief Holbrook said Officer Case was taken to Palmetto Health Richland Hospital, where she died from her injuries.
There's nothing that prepares you for an event such as this, and it shakes you to the core. She just exemplified everything that we look for in a police officer, and she embodies all that we expect from a law enforcement officer.
A memorial service for Officer Case will be held tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Township Auditorium.
The mother of the little girl found dead in a Socastee Creek last week has now been charged with homicide by child abuse. 33-year-old Sarah Toney was previously charged with unlawful conduct toward a child, but Horry County Police announced the new charges earlier this afternoon. The body of baby Grace was found last Thursday by rescue divers, 3 days after her mother lost her in a creek. An Orangeburg man considered a person of interest in a murder case is also accused of an armed robbery. Police say 25-year-old Akeem Lott will appear in court Monday for a bond hearing. Deputies say Lott assaulted and robbed a woman at gunpoint at the Roosevelt Gardens apartments. Authorities also say Lott is a person of interest in the stabbing death of 29-year-old Alan Chansey at the same apartment complex.
police are asking anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers at 188-CRIME-SC.
The president of the University of Missouri, Tim Wolf, resigned today after receiving pressure from the school's faculty, students, and even athletes. About 30 players on Missouri's football team said they weren't going to play until Wolf resigned. They tweeted this on Sunday, agreeing with many black student leaders on campus that Wolf has been negligent while dealing with racial incidents at the school.
Jason, were you guys scheduled to have practice today or anything?
Yes, we were.
And you're not having enough?
We're not having practice.
Any idea when you will?
Whenever this gets resolved.
How do you feel after the meeting?
I feel great. I love my team.
The school's athletic department said Saturday that it supports the right of student athletes to tackle these challenging issues. Some staff tweeted in support of a walkout during classes today and tomorrow. It looks like now that will no longer be necessary.
Our Stephanie Youngblood is in downtown Columbia checking up on rainfall. I know it was nasty out this weekend. How's it looking out there, Stephanie?
Well, those cloudy skies and rain sure to carry on over to this Monday. It's wet on Gervais Street. State House steps are wet. Your street's probably wet too. Stay tuned. I'll take a look at the week ahead coming up later in the show.
The 1,000-year flood was over a month ago, but many areas are still affected by last week's constant rain. Patrick Conroy is in the newsroom. Patrick, what places are still struggling?
Thanks, Anna. The Casey Riverwalk off Alexander Road has had difficult accessibility due to the weather, and it doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon.
Ever since the flood, Columbia just can't seem to get a break, with rain dominating the forecast last week. As the water level in the Congaree River rises, so do the concerns of Public Works Director Jamie Hook.
There are some places that we have not even been able to get to see exactly what the damage is.
Jamie says that the constant rain has been the biggest challenge in assessing the damage, which has caused some areas of the Riverwalk to get washed away.
Last week, the relentless downpour caused the river to flood again, with waters reaching as high as this second step at this amphitheater in the Casey Riverwalk.
Even though the flooding has receded, the rain continues to restrict access in some areas.
We hoped today to do another walkthrough, and of course we're rained out again, so we'll have to see where we can go from there.
What part?
Jamie says that the amphitheater area is still open for now. He says that his team is monitoring the runoff from the upstate and expects the worst of it to happen midweek. From the newsroom, I'm Patrick Conroy.
Customers at a Mississippi IHOP got more than just a side of pancakes with their meal on Saturday. A massive sinkhole swallowed up 15 cars in the International House of Pancakes parking lot in Meridian, Mississippi. Customers say they heard a series of booms and then the loss of electricity. Emergency personnel arrived quickly to the scene and determined that the sinkhole measured 50 feet wide and 600 feet in length. No injuries have been reported at this time.
All walks of life can be seen entering the Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbia every Sunday. But this Sunday, they welcome some unlikely guests to be at the center of attention. Ashley Honey reports.
Those with 4 legs and a tail gathered at the church to be honored by Reverend Jenny Barrington in the annual Blessing of the Animals ceremony.
I'm so happy and cheered and delighted and honored to see all of the little faces looking at me very attentively.
One by one, Reverend Jenny reached out to dozens of pets, blessing them by name.
Well, buddy, Smokey Joe, bless you.
And expressing gratitude for their existence.
I'm not sure who rescued who, huh? I'm sure that it affirms them and expresses love for them, and honor and dignity, because they're each unique and they each have their own name and they each have their own circle of family and friends.
Here at the Unitarian Universalist Church, the Blessing of the Animals offers a bright spot for many of these pets' days, but for Sid here, it's a spot of opportunity, hoping that he can find his forever home.
Well, it came out to, of course, get some attention for Sid. He needs some, he could use a blessing, and to try and find a new home for him.
Sid, abandoned as a puppy, is temporarily staying with a veterinarian, but Patrick Saucier says he deserves a loving home.
And he's got a lot of energy, but he's easy to control. So he's both an active and, vibrant dog, and he'd make a great watchdog, and he's a wonderful companion.
In a world where a dog is a man's best friend, this Sunday, man gave back in the form of a blessing, a prayer that sweet Sid will soon find his very own best friend. Ashley Honey reporting, Carolina News.
If you'd like to give Sid the blessing he's looking for, please contact us at Carolina News to get in touch with Sid's owner at 803-777-9323.
Coming up, we'll hear from those who served in our military and are now at USC. Going back to campus life hasn't been an easy transition for many of them. Stay tuned to hear their stories.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
To honor our veterans on Wednesday for Veterans Day, the University of South Carolina Student Veterans Association says it's in regular contact with over 300 veterans at the school, and many of these veterans have had a lot of trouble transitioning back to USC after serving their country. Tanner Abel has more.
Surrounded by members of the Student Veterans Association at USC, Danny Goodrow is in her element. The SVA is dear to her heart because of her military experience. She served 7 years in the Air Force, including tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, where she helped airlift soldiers injured in combat to safety before coming to USC. But her transition back to school wasn't an easy one.
I think the biggest issue that veterans have as a whole is feeling like they belong here or feeling like they fit in. You know, going from fighting wars in the Middle East, you know, seeing your brothers and sisters dying right in front of you, to coming to a university with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds who are just kind of getting started and just starting to learn about the world.
Goodrow, along with many other veterans, have gone to the Student Success Center to help deal with any issues they are having. According to the center, the top 3 biggest issues for veterans are not feeling like they belong, finances, and time management. Erin Nall deals with veterans on a regular basis and says having more free time is difficult for them.
Sometimes just making that switch from like military life to campus life. You know, military is very scheduled, prescribed. Then you go to campus where, you know, your schedule might be very ambiguous, and then just getting, you know, finding other students on campus that can relate to them.
Other things that irk veterans include the way students treat adults sometimes. Former U.S. Army member Ron Doran, who is now at USC, says he tries to help veterans who get upset when they see younger students disrespect authority.
I had a friend of mine come up and say, you know, how do you do it? You know, this guy came in to the classroom, poked his head in, started being obnoxious. I'm like, dude, you just gotta learn to laugh. You're not being shot at. Isn't it a little bit easier here?
The Student Veterans Association has allowed those like Doran and Goodrow to find a group they can relate to and feel comfortable with. Goodrow now serves as the SVA president. Among other things, SVA's main goals are connecting student veterans and providing them help and networking opportunities for jobs, while also giving back to the community.
You know, from Greek life to student organizations, we want to let our campus know that, hey, we're here, we want to be a part of what you're a part of, and we want you to be a part of what we're a part of.
Goodrow's hoping to give other student veterans what the SVA gave to her, a family-like atmosphere to make South Carolina feel like home. Tanner Abel, Carolina News.
Because of privacy laws which protect military status, Goodrow estimates there might be an additional 400 to 700 student veterans on campus that may not know about the SVA. If you want to get involved with the Student Veterans Association, go to their Facebook page at facebook.com/SVAUSC.
Ben Carson is now being questioned about his alleged bad boy past. The top Republican candidate revealed that he was a troubled young man during his 20s and was involved in physical altercations, one including his mother. But people are starting to question exactly how accurate these accounts are and if they are even true. Carson blames the media for biased investigations into these past incidents.
So, you know, obviously the political thing was a hit job, no question about it. The kind of investigations that were done, you know, talking to the wrong people, not going to like Wilson Junior High School where the lock incident occurred, but talking to other people and saying, see, we can't find, I mean, it's just stupid. And I mean, if our media is no better at investigating than that, it's sick.
Ben Carson mentions his troubled past to explain how his faith in God turned his life around. Make sure to tune into the 4th GOP debate tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, which will air on Fox.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump hosted SNL this past weekend, and the ratings have been huge. The show had its biggest overnight numbers in 3 years, but it also received some mixed reviews. One variety TV critic says most of Trump's sketches were, quote, weak, timid, or predictable. Some people protested against Trump hosting the show after Trump made some controversial comments about illegal immigrants at the start of his campaign.
Let's check back in with our weather specialist, Stephanie Youngblood, who is keeping an eye on conditions for the upcoming week. It looks pretty nasty out there, Stephanie.
Rain, rain, go away. It is wet and chilly out here in the Congaree River where the water is rising and flood warnings are in effect throughout the state. Will this rain be here to stay? I'll tell you coming up next in weather.